Her daughter invited a man to dinner. Single mother froze when she realized he was the billionaire she once loved. The man standing in my doorway looked at me with those same gray eyes that once promised me forever. His voice was gentle, apologetic. "I don't remember you, Julia. I'm so sorry, but I don't remember any of this." My hands trembled as I held out the photograph. Us, 8 years ago. His arm around my waist, both of us laughing at something only we understood. We were in love, Nath. We were going to get married. You gave me this ring. You told me I was your whole world. He stared at the photo, and I watched something break behind his eyes. I want to remember. God, I want to remember, but it's just gone. The accident took it all. I took a breath, knowing the next words would shatter everything. There's something else you need to know. When I left 8 years ago, when I disappeared without a trace, I was pregnant. The silence that followed was deafening. He looked toward the bedroom where our daughter slept. The little girl who had his smile, his eyes, his gentle heart. "Zoe," he whispered. "Zoe is your daughter," I said, tears streaming down my face. "And I kept her from you for 7 years. But before I tell you how we got to that devastating moment, before I explain the secrets and lies in the love that refused to die, you need to understand where this story really begins. You need to know about the day my entire world tilted on its axis. The day my 7-year-old daughter brought home a stranger who turned out to be anything but. Have you ever seen someone from your past and felt like the ground just opened up beneath you? Have you ever had to smile and pretend everything's fine when your heart is breaking all over again? What would you do if fate dragged back the one person you'd spent years trying to forget? The one person who shattered you so completely that you had to rebuild yourself from scratch. That's exactly what happened to me. One ordinary Tuesday afternoon, one innocent act of kindness from my daughter, and suddenly, the billionaire I once loved, the man whose words destroyed me, the father of my child, had no idea she existed, was standing in my tiny apartment asking if he could stay for spaghetti dinner. What I didn't know was that this unexpected reunion would unravel every secret I'd buried for 8 years. It would force me to confront the biggest lie I'd ever told. It would change all 3 of our lives forever. But first, I had to survive that dinner without completely falling apart. Before we dive deep into this story, if you're someone who believes in second chances, in forgiveness, in the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds, you're in exactly the right place. Hit that like button right now and subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips for more stories that touch the heart and feed the soul. Trust me, you're going to want to follow this journey all the way to the end. And please, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, or just say I'm with you, Dr. Phillips, so I know you're here with me on this emotional roller coaster. Your comments truly mean the world to me. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. The autumn rain had finally stopped that Tuesday afternoon, leaving the small neighborhood park glistening under the fading light. I stood at my kitchen window in our modest 2-bedroom apartment, hands submerged in soapy dishwater, watching puddles reflect the orange and pink sky. My mind was already running through tomorrow's shift schedule at Rosie's Diner, where I worked double shifts most weeks. Being a single mother to 7-year-old Zoe meant every moment was calculated, every dollar stretched thin, every dream carefully postponed. But when I looked at my daughter's bright eyes and that infectious laugh, I knew I'd do it all over again without a single regret. I was rinsing the last plate when I heard the apartment door burst open. "Mommy, Mommy," Zoe's voice rang through our small space, breathless with excitement. "You have to meet my new friend." My heart seized immediately. I dried my hands quickly, protective instincts firing on all cylinders. Zoe knew better than to talk to strangers. We'd had that conversation dozens of times. Living in the city as a single mom meant being careful, being cautious, being constantly aware. "Zoe, what have I told you about talking to?" I stopped mid-sentence as I turned the corner into our small living room. Standing in my doorway, looking remarkably out of place in our tiny apartment, was a man who seemed to have stepped straight out of a magazine spread. Tall, probably 6'2", dark hair slightly dampened from the earlier rain, an expensive-looking charcoal coat over what appeared to be an immaculately tailored suit. But what struck me most, what made my breath catch in my throat, were his eyes. Deep gray, warm, currently filled with an apologetic gentleness that seemed genuine. For exactly 3 seconds, I processed him as simply a stranger. A well-dressed, handsome stranger my daughter had inexplicably brought home. And then he smiled. That smile, that specific, slightly crooked smile that had once been my whole world. Time didn't just slow down. It stopped completely. The plate I'd been holding slipped from my fingers, and only his quick reflexes saved it from shattering on our worn linoleum floor. He caught it smoothly, setting it on the counter near the door. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at Nathaniel Grayson, the man I'd loved with every fiber of my being, the man who'd broken my heart so thoroughly that I'd fled across state lines to escape the pain, the man whose child was currently clutching a muddy stuffed rabbit and beaming up at him with complete adoration. The father Zoe had never met, had never known, because I'd made sure of it. "I'm so sorry to intrude," Nath said, and God, even his voice was the same, that smooth, cultured tone that used to whisper promises in the dark. I tried to tell Zoe that she should ask your permission first, but she was quite insistent. "Very determined young lady you have here." "He saved Mr. Buttons," Zoe exclaimed, holding up her beloved stuffed rabbit. "He was stuck way up in the tree at the park, and Nath climbed all the way up and got him down. He's a hero, Mommy." I stared at the muddy rabbit. Mr. Buttons had been Zoe's constant companion since she was 2 years old, a gift from my mother in those last months before the cancer took her. Before my father decided that my choices, my life, my very existence had caused too much stress, before he cut me out of his life completely, that rabbit was irreplaceable to Zoe, irreplaceable to both of us, really. And this man, this ghost from my past, had climbed a tree to rescue it. The word came out as barely a whisper. I cleared my throat, tried again. "Thank you, really. That was very kind of you." But even as I said the words, my mind was screaming, "Does he recognize me? How can he not recognize me?" We spent a year of our lives inseparable. We made plans. We made love. We made promises that felt carved in stone. But he was looking at me with polite interest, the way you look at a stranger, not a flicker of recognition in those gray eyes. "I should go," Nath said, taking a small step back toward the door. "I just wanted to make sure she got home safely. She was quite upset about her rabbit, and I couldn't just leave her alone in the park. Please stay for dinner." Zoe grabbed his hand with both of hers, her small fingers wrapping around his large one. "Please, please, please. Mommy makes the best spaghetti in the whole world. We have lots, don't we, Mommy?" "Zoe," I started, but my daughter had that look, the pleading, hopeful look that she knew I could rarely resist. "I really shouldn't impose," Nath interjected, but I caught something in his expression, a flicker of loneliness, perhaps, or hope, like the idea of a simple dinner in a warm home appealed to him more than it should, against every practical instinct I possessed, against every protective wall I'd built over 8 long years, against the voice in my head screaming that this was dangerous and complicated and absolutely insane. I heard myself say, "It's just spaghetti, nothing fancy, but you're welcome to stay. It's the least I can do to thank you for helping Zoe." The smile that crossed his face was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. "Thank you. I'd really like that." And just like that, my past walked into my present and sat down at my kitchen table like the universe hadn't just tilted completely off its axis. The next 20 minutes were among the strangest of my entire life. I moved through the motions of cooking, my hands somehow steady despite the chaos in my head. Boiling water, browning meat, opening a jar of sauce because homemade wasn't in the budget this week and I was too shattered to care, all while hyper-aware of the man sitting at my small kitchen table. My table, in my apartment, playing tic-tac-toe with our daughter on the back of her homework sheet. I couldn't stop stealing glances at him, looking for any sign that he knew who I was, that this was some elaborate, cruel game. but he seemed genuinely comfortable, genuinely kind, genuinely interested in Zoe's chatter about her day at school, her best friends, Emma and Daisy, her favorite books, and her current obsession with marine biology. "You want to study oceans?" Nath asked, his tone taking her seriously in a way that made my chest ache. "That's fascinating. What's your favorite sea creature?" "Octopuses," Zoe said immediately. "They're super smart. They can solve puzzles and escape from tanks, and they have 3 hearts. 3. Can you believe it? 3 hearts," Nath repeated, glancing at me with a smile. "That's pretty remarkable." I turned away quickly, focusing on stirring the sauce. Remarkable. Right. Unlike having your heart broken so badly that you weren't sure it still worked at all. "What do you do?" I asked, trying to make normal conversation, trying to be a normal person, having a normal dinner with a normal stranger, and not a woman whose entire world had just been turned inside out. "I work in development," Nath said, and I noticed he seemed to choose his words carefully. "Real estate, mostly. Buildings, properties, that kind of thing." "That sounds important," I managed. "It pays the bills," he said with a slight shrug. "What about you?" "I'm a waitress at Rosie's Diner downtown," I said, fighting the urge to feel ashamed, fighting the urge to compare my life to whatever his had become. "It's not glamorous, but it pays our bills. Mostly. Mommy works really hard," Zoe said loyally, and I wanted to hug her. "Sometimes she works when I'm sleeping and when I'm at school, but she always makes time for me. Always." I saw something shift in Nath's expression. Understanding, perhaps, or respect. "That's admirable," he said quietly, looking directly at me. "Zoe's very lucky to have you. You're clearly an incredible mother." The words landed in my chest with unexpected weight. When was the last time someone had acknowledged my efforts? When was the last time someone had seen me, really seen me, as more than just the struggling single mom barely keeping her head above water? "Thank you," I whispered. Dinner was ready minutes later. I served it on our mismatched plates, acutely aware of how modest everything was. The chipped bowls, the worn silverware, the dented pot I brought directly to the table because we didn't have a proper serving dish. Everything about our life screamed struggle, and here sat a man in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. But if Nath noticed or cared, he didn't show it. He complimented the meal genuinely. He asked for seconds. He helped Zoe twirl her spaghetti on her fork and laughed when sauce ended up on her nose. He fit into our little family dinner like a missing puzzle piece I hadn't known we were missing. "So tell me about yourself," Nath said, looking at me with genuine interest. "Where are you from originally? Have you always lived in the city?" "I grew up in Connecticut," I said carefully, editing my truth. "Small town. Came to the city about 8 years ago for a fresh start." 8 years ago. I watched his face carefully as I said it. Any flicker of recognition, any sign that the timeline meant something to him. Nothing, just polite interest. "Big change," he said. "Small town to the city, that must have been challenging." "It was," I admitted. "But sometimes you need to start over, build something new." "I understand that completely," Nath said, and something in his tone made me look up sharply. "Sometimes a fresh start is exactly what you need to become who you're meant to be." "What about you?" I asked, even though I was terrified of the answer. "Are you from here?" "Born and raised," he said. "Took over my father's construction business when he passed, built it into something bigger, much bigger than either of us probably imagined." "I'm sorry about your father," I said softly, and I meant it. I'd met Nath's father once briefly, before everything fell apart. A kind man, hard-working. He'd like me, I thought, or at least he treated me with respect. "Thank you," Nath said. "It was a long time ago, but I still miss him. He taught me everything about the business, about integrity, about doing good work. I try to honor that, even when it's difficult." Zoe, oblivious to the undercurrents swirling around the table, launched into a story about her art class, about a painting she was working on of the ocean. Nath listened attentively, asking questions, encouraging her to describe her creative process. I watched them together and felt my heart crack open. This was what I'd taken from both of them, 7 years of this. Zoe deserved a father who listened to her like she mattered. And Nath, whatever he'd done in the past, was being exactly that kind of father right now without even knowing it. The guilt was suffocating. After dinner, Nath insisted on helping with dishes despite my protests. We stood side by side at my small sink, falling into an easy rhythm. He washed, I dried, like we'd done it 1,000 times before, like no time had passed at all. Except everything had passed. Everything had changed. This was really kind of you, Nath said softly, handing me a plate, inviting me to stay. I know it's unusual, a stranger in your home, but this, he gestured around our small kitchen, this is the most normal, most real thing I've experienced in longer than I can remember. What do you mean? I asked, curiosity overcoming caution. He paused, considering his words. My life is complicated. A lot of obligations, a lot of expectations. People always wanting something. It's rare to just sit and eat spaghetti and talk about octopuses with someone who isn't trying to impress me or use me for something. The words struck me as odd. Use him for what? But before I could ask, Zoe appeared at the kitchen entrance in her pajamas, teeth freshly brushed. Can Nath see my room? She asked. Please. I want to show him my drawings. I started to say no, to maintain some boundary, but Nath looked at me with such hopeful eyes. If it's all right with your mom, I'd love to see your artwork. 5 minutes, I conceded, and Zoe grabbed his hand and pulled him down the hall. I stood alone in the kitchen, trying to process, trying to understand, trying to figure out if I was losing my mind. Nathaniel Grayson was in my daughter's bedroom, looking at her crayon drawings. Nathaniel Grayson, who'd told his business partner I was a liability, who'd been planning to end things with me right before I disappeared, who'd apparently built some kind of empire in the 8 years since, and he had absolutely no idea who I was. I heard their voices from down the hall. Zoe's excited chatter, Nath's warm responses. At one point, I heard him laugh, really laugh, and the sound transported me back 8 years, to late nights in his tiny apartment, to dreams we'd spun together, to a version of him I'd thought I knew completely. They emerged 10 minutes later, Zoe practically glowing. He liked all my pictures, Mommy. He said, I'm really talented. You are really talented, Nath confirmed. That ocean painting you described at dinner, when you finish it, I'd love to see it, if that's okay. Zoe looked at me with such hope. Can he come back, Mommy? Please. I opened my mouth, not sure what would come out. But Nath spoke first. Only if it's okay with your mom. I don't want to intrude on your family time. The phrase hung in the air, loaded with meaning he couldn't possibly understand. I should go, Nath said, reading my hesitation. But thank you again. For dinner. For your hospitality. This meant more than you know. He pulled on his expensive coat, and I walked him to the door. Zoe gave him an enthusiastic hug, which he returned with surprising tenderness. And then it was just me and him at the doorway, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something different than what he used to wear, but it suited him, close enough that I could see the small scar above his left eyebrow, that he'd gotten in a construction accident when we were together, close enough to remember everything we'd been, everything we'd lost. I know this might be forward, Nath said, his voice low enough that Zoe wouldn't hear from where she'd gone to put Mr. Buttons to bed. But would it be all right if I came by again sometime? Maybe took you both to dinner properly. My treat. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every rational part of my brain screamed caution. I didn't know this version of him. I had responsibilities. I couldn't afford distractions, especially not from someone who destroyed me once before. Someone who might destroy me again. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't really date. Zoe is my priority, and bringing people in and out of her life, it's not something I take lightly. I completely understand, Nath said quickly, and I respect that immensely. I'm not trying to pressure you into anything. He paused, searching for words. I enjoyed tonight. I enjoyed talking with you both. There's something about you two that feels like... He trailed off, shaking his head. Sorry, that probably sounds strange. What? I pressed, needing to hear it. What does it feel like? Home, he said simply. You feel like home. The words hit me like a physical blow, because he'd said the exact same thing to me 8 years ago, the first time he told me he loved me. You feel like home, Julia, like everything I've been searching for. I must have made some sound, some small indication of my distress, because his expression shifted to concern. Are you okay? Did I say something wrong? No, I managed. I'm fine. Just, it's been a long day. Of course, he said, stepping back. I should let you get some rest, but maybe, could I at least have your number? Just for coffee sometime. No pressure. This was my chance to shut it down, to protect myself and my daughter, to send him away and never look back. Instead, I heard myself rattling off my phone number. He saved it immediately, then sent me a text so I'd have just his first name, Nath, like he was just a regular guy, not whatever he'd become. Good night, Julia, he said softly. And, thank you, really, good night, I whispered. I closed the door behind him and leaned against it, my legs suddenly unable to support my weight. I slid down until I was sitting on the floor, my head in my hands. Mommy, Zoe appeared, concerned. Are you okay? I'm fine, baby, I lied, pulling her into my arms. Just tired. I really like him, Zoe said, snuggling against me. He's nice. Do you think he'll really come back? I don't know, sweetheart. I hope he does, Zoe yawned. Maybe he could be my friend. I've always wanted a grown-up friend like that. The innocence of her words shattered me. She had no idea that the kind man who'd rescued her rabbit was her father. No idea that I'd kept them apart for 7 years. No idea how complicated and messy and impossible this situation had just become. After I tucked Zoe into bed, I went to my own room and opened the bottom drawer of my dresser. Beneath old sweaters I rarely wore, I pulled out a small wooden box. Inside were the remnants of my relationship with Nath. Photographs of us together, young and in love, and completely unprepared for how badly we'd hurt each other. The promise ring he'd given me, a simple silver band with our initials engraved inside. Movie ticket stubs, a dried flower from our first date. Notes he'd written me during slow days at the cafe where we'd met. I picked up one photograph. We were at a street fair, sharing cotton candy. His arm around my waist, my head on his shoulder, both of us laughing at something. We looked happy. We looked whole. Who are you now? I whispered to the photograph. And why don't you remember me? I put everything back in the box and shoved it deep into the drawer. Then I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my phone on the nightstand. Already, I could see his contact. Nath, just sitting there. A door I could walk through or close forever. Sleep didn't come for hours. The next day at work was torture. I was running on 3 hours of sleep, and my mind was anywhere but on taking orders and refilling coffee cups. I messed up orders, forgot to bring out side dishes, nearly gave a customer decaf instead of regular, which in a diner full of truckers and early morning workers could have started a riot. Everything okay, Julia? My manager asked during the lunch rush. You seem distracted. Just tired, I said. Didn't sleep well. It wasn't until my break that I allowed myself to pull out my phone. No messages. Part of me was relieved. Part of me was disappointed. I didn't know which feeling to trust. Girl, you look like death, Jasmine said, sliding into the booth across from me. She'd been working at Rosie's for 5 years, had become my closest friend in the city. She knew most of my story. Not all of it. But enough. What happened? I met someone, I said, the words tumbling out. Or rather, Zoe met someone and brought him home for dinner. Jasmine's eyes went wide. Please tell me you didn't let some random stranger into your apartment. He's not random, I said, then paused. Well, he is. But he's also, God, Jasmine, I don't even know how to explain this. Try, she said firmly. So I told her about Nath rescuing Mr. Buttons, about dinner, about how kind he was with Zoe. I left out the biggest part, the part about our past. I wasn't ready to say that out loud yet. Okay, so handsome stranger is nice to your kid, Jasmine summarized. That's good. Right. Why do you look like you've seen a ghost? Because I think I might know him, I said carefully. From before. Before I came to the city. Jasmine leaned forward. From Connecticut. From your old life. Maybe, I hedged. She studied me for a long moment. The guy, she said slowly. Zoe's father. The one you never talk about. I didn't answer, which was answer enough. Holy hell, Julia, Jasmine breathed. Are you serious? After 8 years, he just randomly shows up in a park and rescues a stuffed rabbit. It sounds insane when you say it like that. It sounds insane, period, she countered. Did he recognize you? I shook my head. No, not at all. It's like I'm a complete stranger to him. How is that possible? Jasmine demanded. You said you were together for a year. You don't just forget someone you loved. I don't know, I admitted, unless he's pretending. Maybe this is some kind of game, or maybe he legitimately doesn't remember you, Jasmine said. There could be a million reasons. Did you ask him? And say what? I challenged. Hey, remember me? We used to date. Also, you're my daughter's father, but I never told you. That'll go over great. Fair point, Jasmine conceded. So what are you going to do? Nothing, I said firmly. I'm going to do absolutely nothing. He'll probably never call anyway. It was just one weird dinner. We'll never see him again, and life will go back to normal. My phone buzzed at that exact moment. A text from Nath. Hi Julia, it's Nath from last night. I was wondering if you and Zoe would like to have lunch this Saturday. There's a great place by the river. My treat. No pressure at all. Just thought it might be fun. Jasmine watched my face. That's him, isn't it? Yeah, I whispered. What are you going to say? I stared at the message, at the casual friendliness of it, at the invitation that felt both terrifying and impossibly tempting. I should say no. I should protect myself and my daughter from the complications this would inevitably bring. My fingers moved across the screen before my brain could stop them. Why didn't you tell me who you really are? I sent it before I could reconsider. The response came almost immediately. What do you mean? I took a breath and typed, I know who you are, Nath. Nathaniel Grayson, the billionaire developer. I saw the articles. There was a longer pause this time. When his response came, I could almost hear the regret in the words. I'm sorry. I should have been upfront with you. Can we talk? Please. I can explain. I looked at Jasmine. He wants to talk. Then talk, she said. But Julia, be careful. Billionaires don't usually hang around diner waitresses unless they want something. Her words stung because they echoed my own fears. But I texted back anyway. The park where you met Zoe. 6 o'clock, just you and me. Zoe stays with a friend. I'll be there, came his immediate reply. And Julia, I really am sorry. I should have told you. I showed up at the park at 5:55, my stomach in knots. I'd asked my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, to watch Zoe for an hour. Told my daughter I had to run an errand. The guilt of lying sat heavy on my chest, but I couldn't exactly explain where I was really going. Nath was already there, standing by the tree where this had all started. He'd ditched the expensive suit for jeans and a simple sweater. Somehow, he looked more like the Nath I'd known 8 years ago. More real, more human. He saw me approaching and straightened. Julia. Thank you for coming, for giving me a chance to explain. I crossed my arms, keeping distance between us. So, explain. Why lie about who you are? I didn't lie, Nath said carefully. I just didn't volunteer the information. And honestly, when Zoe brought me to your apartment, I wasn't thinking about my business or my net worth. I was thinking about a little girl who was crying over her stuffed rabbit. You said you work in real estate development, I countered. That's a pretty significant understatement when you're one of the wealthiest developers in the country. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. You're right. I downplayed it. I do that a lot, actually, because the moment people know who I am, everything changes. They see dollar signs instead of a person. They want something from me. And for once, just once, I wanted to have a normal conversation with someone who wasn't trying to impress me or use me. I'm not trying to use you, I said, anger flaring. I didn't even know who you were. I know, Nath said quietly. That's exactly why I wanted to keep seeing you. You and Zoe, you treated me like a regular person. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Your world, I repeated. Right, because we're from completely different worlds, aren't we? Julia. Nath stepped closer. I don't care about that. I don't care that you work at a diner or live in a small apartment. Those things don't matter to me. Easy for you to say when you have billions in the bank, I shot back. He flinched. Fair. But I wasn't always wealthy. My father's construction company was failing when he died. I was drowning in debt, working 20-hour days just to keep it afloat. I built what I have, from nothing, from hard work and risk, and a lot of luck. So, I do understand struggle, even if my current circumstances don't reflect that. I wanted to stay angry. It would be safer. But the sincerity in his voice, in his eyes, made it difficult. Why do you really want to see us again? I asked quietly. What's your angle here? No angle, Nath said. Just, that dinner with you and Zoe was the first time in years I felt like myself, like I could breathe. You make me feel real, Julia. Not like a business opportunity or a bank account, just like a person. We barely know each other, I pointed out. Then let me change that, he said. Let me take you and Zoe to lunch on Saturday. Let me show you that I'm not just some rich guy playing games. I'm just someone who had a genuinely wonderful evening and wants more of them. I studied him carefully, looking for deception, looking for the man who'd called me a liability 8 years ago. But all I saw was earnestness, vulnerability, a loneliness that mirrored my own. This is a bad idea, I said, but even I could hear my resolve weakening. Probably, Nath agreed with a small smile. But sometimes bad ideas turn into the best things in our lives. Saturday, I said finally. Lunch, somewhere casual. Nothing fancy. The smile that broke across his face was radiant. Casual. I can do casual. Thank you, Julia. You won't regret this. But as I walked away, heading back to my apartment and my daughter and my carefully constructed life, I couldn't shake the feeling that I already did. Because here's what Nath didn't know. What he couldn't know. 8 years ago, we hadn't just been casual acquaintances. We'd been everything to each other. We'd planned a future together. We'd talked about marriage and children and growing old together. And then I'd overheard him tell someone I was a liability, that he needed to end things, that I didn't fit into the successful life he was building. So, I'd left, disappeared, started over, and discovered 2 weeks later that I was carrying his child. For 8 years, I'd convinced myself I'd made the right choice, that keeping Zoe from him was protecting her from a father who didn't want us, from a man who valued success over love. But now, watching him walk away across the park, I wasn't sure anymore. Because the Nath I'd just spoken with didn't seem like the man I'd overheard 8 years ago. This Nath seemed different, humbler, kinder, like somewhere in the years between, he'd changed fundamentally. Or maybe he'd always been good at performing, good at showing people what they wanted to see. I didn't know which possibility terrified me more. What I did know was that I was playing with fire. Every interaction, every conversation, every moment brought me closer to an explosion that would destroy everything. Because eventually, the truth would come out. Secrets, this big, never stayed buried forever. And when Nath discovered that the 7-year-old girl he'd rescued in the park was his daughter, when he realized I'd kept her from him for her entire life, there would be no going back. But I wasn't ready to face that yet, wasn't ready to unravel 8 years of carefully constructed walls. So I did what I'd become an expert at over the years. I compartmentalized. I pushed the fear down deep. I told myself I could handle this, that I could see him casually, keep my secrets safe, and somehow navigate this impossible situation. I was wrong, of course, but I wouldn't realize that until it was far too late. Saturday arrived faster than I wanted. I changed outfits 3 times before settling on simple jeans and a nice blouse. Zoe was bouncing with excitement, wearing her favorite dress with the sunflowers on it. Are we really going to lunch with Nath? She asked for the 100th time. Yes, sweetheart, we really are. Is he your boyfriend now? She asked innocently. No, I said quickly. He's just a friend, a new friend, that's all. But you like him, Zoe pressed. I can tell. Out of the mouths of babes, as they say. I do think he's nice, I admitted carefully. But that doesn't mean anything more than friendship, okay? Don't get any ideas. Zoe just smiled in that knowing way children sometimes do. The way that says they see right through your carefully constructed denials. Nath picked us up at noon in a car that was nice but not ostentatious. A black SUV that spoke of wealth but didn't scream it. He'd taken my request for casual seriously, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Ladies, he said with a warm smile, you both look beautiful. Zoe beamed. So do you. Handsome, I corrected automatically. Men are handsome. Handsome, Zoe repeated dutifully, and Nath laughed. I'll take it, he said. The restaurant he chose was perfect. A family-friendly place by the river with outdoor seating, and a menu that included both kid options and more sophisticated fare. Not trying to impress with expense, but showing thoughtfulness in the choice. We settled into our seats, and Zoe immediately launched into telling Nath about her week at school. He listened attentively, asking follow-up questions, treating her observations with respect. I watched them interact and felt my heart do complicated things in my chest. So Julia, Nath said after we'd ordered, tell me more about you. I feel like I did all the talking at dinner. I want to know your story. Not much to tell, I said, deflecting. Small-town girl moves to big city, works hard, raises her daughter. Pretty standard stuff. I doubt anything about you is standard, Nath said, and the way he looked at me made my breath catch. What about you? I countered. You mentioned your father's company. How did you build it into what it is now? A lot of work, Nath said. A lot of risk. Some lucky breaks. I took chances that terrified me. Borrowed money I wasn't sure I could pay back. Worked so many hours I barely slept. That must have been lonely, I said quietly. It was, he admitted. I sacrificed a lot. Relationships mostly. Personal connections. I was so focused on success that I pushed away people who mattered. Made choices I regret. His words landed like stones in my chest. Was he talking about me, about us? Or was I reading meaning into generic regret? Do you have family? I asked. Besides your father, I mean. My mother, Nath said. We're not close anymore. Haven't been for years. She had very specific ideas about who I should be with. We clashed over it. Eventually, she chose her vision over having me in her life. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Even though his mother had been part of the reason we'd fallen apart, I wouldn't wish estrangement on anyone. It's probably for the best, Nath said. She was. He paused, searching for words. Toxic. Manipulative. Cared more about appearances than about actual happiness. The food arrived then, saving me from having to respond. We ate and talked, and slowly, I felt myself relaxing. This was nice, easy, almost like a normal family lunch, except we weren't a family, and nothing about this situation was normal. After lunch, Nath suggested a walk along the river path. Zoe ran ahead, chasing birds and examining interesting rocks, while Nath and I walked more slowly behind her. I need to tell you something, Nath said suddenly. My heart stopped. This was it. He'd figured it out. He knew. But what he said was, I haven't been completely honest with you about why I'm in the city right now. Okay, I said carefully. I've been here for the past 6 months, he explained, taking a step back from the business. My company runs itself at this point. I have people handling the day-to-day operations. Why? I asked. Because I was miserable, he said bluntly. I had everything I'd worked for, money, success, respect, and I was absolutely miserable. I realized I'd built this empire but lost myself in the process. So what are you doing now? I pressed. Trying to figure out who I am when I'm not just the CEO, Nath said. Trying to find meaning beyond business deals and profit margins. Doing some charity work, reconnecting with what matters. And what matters? I asked softly. He stopped walking, turned to face me fully. People, he said. Real connections. Making a difference in individual lives, not just building structures. Finding purpose beyond a bank balance. The intensity in his eyes made me look away. That's admirable. It's necessary, he corrected. He paused, then continued. I had a wake-up call a few years ago. A car accident. Nearly died. I turned sharply. Crashed coming home late from a business meeting, Nath said. Another car ran a red light. Hit me head on. I was in the hospital for months. My God, Nath, I'm so sorry. It changed me, he said quietly. Made me reevaluate everything. Who I was, what I wanted, the person I'd become, in pursuit of success. This was new information, an accident, but he hadn't mentioned memory loss. Nothing about not remembering parts of his past. Were you badly hurt? I asked, fishing for details. Traumatic brain injury, Nath said, and my heart stopped. Broken ribs, collapsed lung. They weren't sure I'd make it at first. But you recovered, I said, my mind racing. Mostly, he said. There are some gaps, some things I don't remember clearly from before the accident. But I'm told that's normal with head trauma. There it was, the missing piece. He had memory loss, not complete, but gaps. And apparently, I existed in one of those gaps. But instead of relief, I felt devastation, because it meant the version of Nath I'd loved, the version who'd promised me forever, might be completely gone, lost in a traumatic brain injury that nearly killed him. And this Nath, this kind, thoughtful man walking beside me, had no idea we'd already lived a whole lifetime together. I realized he was still talking. Sorry, what? I asked. I was just saying that meeting you and Zoe feels like another wake-up call, Nath repeated. A reminder of what actually matters. Family, connection, simple joys like spaghetti dinners and walks by the river. We're not your family, I said, perhaps too sharply. Nath looked surprised. No, of course not. I didn't mean to imply. I'm sorry. I just meant that being around you both reminds me of what I want, what kind of life I want to build. And what's that? One with people I care about in it, he said simply. One where I'm not alone in a big empty house wondering why success feels so hollow. Before I could respond, Zoe came running back. Mommy, Nath, look. She held out a perfectly smooth river stone. Isn't it pretty? Can I keep it? Of course, I said. That's beautiful, Nath agreed. You should start a collection. Zoe's eyes lit up. Will you help me find more? Absolutely, Nath said. And just like that, we spent the next 30 minutes searching for river stones. Nath and Zoe laughing together, comparing finds, building a small collection that Zoe held like treasure. I watched them and felt time collapse, past and present overlaying, because this was exactly the kind of father I'd imagined Nath would be. Back when we were together and dreaming about our future children, he was playful and patient and present, everything a little girl deserved. Everything Zoe had been missing her entire life. The guilt was crushing. As the afternoon wound down and Nath drove us home, Zoe dozed off in the back seat, exhausted from sunshine and adventure. Thank you for today, Nath said quietly. It was perfect. It was nice, I agreed carefully. Can I see you again? He asked. Both of you. Maybe make this a regular thing. Every rational bone in my body screamed, no. This was getting too complicated, too dangerous, too likely to end in disaster. But I looked at my sleeping daughter in the rearview mirror, at her peaceful face, at the river stones clutched in her hand, and I thought about the father she'd never known, about the happiness she deserved. Maybe that makes me selfish. Maybe I should have sent him away, protected my secrets, kept our life simple and uncomplicated. But I'd been alone for so long, carrying everything by myself. And Nath made me feel seen, made Zoe feel special, made both of us feel like we mattered. Okay, I heard myself say. We can see you again. The smile on his face was worth every complication that was surely coming. We can figure out the details later, Nath said. No pressure. Whenever works for you. He walked us to our apartment door, carrying sleeping Zoe while I unlocked it. He laid her gently on the couch, brushing hair from her face with surprising tenderness. "She's amazing," he whispered. "You've done such an incredible job with her." "Thank you," I managed around the lump in my throat. We stood there in my small living room, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. Close enough to remember other times we'd stood this close, before everything fell apart. "Julia," he said softly, "I know this is moving fast. I know you barely know me. But I feel something here, something real. Tell me I'm not imagining it." "You're not imagining it," I admitted, because denying it would be a lie. "Good," he breathed. "That's good." He left shortly after, but the feeling of his presence lingered. The warmth, the possibility, the terrible, beautiful complication of it all. That night, after Zoe was in bed, I sat alone with my thoughts, with my secrets, with the weight of everything I was carrying. I should tell him, I thought. Just rip off the bandage, explain everything. But how do you tell someone that you used to be in love, that you're the mother of his child, that he's been bonding with his daughter without knowing it, that you've kept this secret for 7 years? There's no good way to drop that bomb. So I told myself I'd wait, find the right moment, figure out the best approach. I was lying to myself, of course. There would never be a right moment. I was just buying time, postponing the inevitable explosion. But for now, for just a little while longer, I could pretend. I could enjoy the attention of a man who made me feel things I thought were long dead. I could watch my daughter's face light up when Nath came around. I could let myself imagine, just for a moment, what it might be like if we actually had a chance at being a family. It was selfish. It was wrong. It was going to end badly. But I did it anyway. Because sometimes the heart wants what it wants, even when the mind knows better. And my treacherous heart wanted Nathaniel Grayson, even though having him meant risking everything. The weeks that followed that riverside lunch became a pattern. A beautiful, terrifying pattern that I knew couldn't last, but couldn't bring myself to stop. Nath became a fixture in our lives. He'd show up at the diner during my afternoon shift, sitting at the counter with his laptop, ordering coffee and occasionally pie. Never disrupting my work, just being present. Jasmine would give me knowing looks every time he walked in, but she stopped lecturing me about being careful. I think even she could see how good he was for both me and Zoe. On weekends, we'd do family activities. The zoo, the children's museum, the park. Simple things that didn't require wealth but were rich in the only currency that mattered. Time, attention, laughter. Nath was incredible with Zoe. Patient when she asked a million questions. Enthusiastic about her interests. He bought her books about marine biology and actually read them so he could discuss them with her. He attended her school art show, sitting in the audience and clapping louder than anyone when she received an honorable mention for her ocean painting. And with me, he was everything I'd needed 8 years ago but never got. Present, attentive, interested in my thoughts, my dreams, my daily struggles. He never flaunted his wealth, never made me feel less than. When my car broke down and I panicked about the repair cost, he didn't throw money at the problem. Instead, he called a friend who owned a repair shop and negotiated a payment plan I could actually manage. "It's what friends do," he said when I tried to thank him. "And I consider you a friend, Julia. A very important friend." Friend. The word stung, because I was feeling things that went far beyond friendship. Things I had no right to feel. Things that were complicated by secrets and lies and a past he couldn't remember. But I couldn't help it. I was falling in love with him. Again. Or maybe still. Maybe I'd never stopped. One evening, about 6 weeks after that first dinner, Nath and I sat on my apartment building's roof access. Zoe was asleep inside, and Nath had stayed late after bringing us dinner. We'd developed this routine, talking after Zoe went to bed, getting to know each other in the quiet hours. "Tell me about Zoe's father," Nath said suddenly. I froze, my heart hammering. "What? You never talk about him," Nath said. "I don't mean to pry, but Zoe is such an incredible kid. He must have been something special for you to have chosen to have a child with him." The irony of the question would have been funny if it weren't so devastating. "It's complicated," I said carefully. "Most important things are," Nath replied. but I'd like to understand. If you're comfortable sharing. I took a breath. How much truth could I give him without giving him everything? We were young, I started. We were in love. At least, I thought we were. We had plans, a future we were going to build together. What happened? Nath asked gently. He changed, I said, which was true enough. Or maybe I just saw who he really was. He was ambitious, driven, and I didn't fit into the life he wanted. So I left before he could leave me. And you found out you were pregnant after? Right after, I confirmed. I thought about telling him, but my pride wouldn't let me. I didn't want to trap him into a life he clearly didn't want. That must have been terrifying, Nath said, being pregnant and alone. It was, I admitted. But then, Zoe was born, and she became my whole world. Everything else just faded into background noise. Does he know about her? Nath pressed. Did you ever tell him he has a daughter? No, I whispered. He doesn't know. Nath was quiet for a long moment. Do you ever think about telling him? Every single day, I said honestly. The guilt is crushing sometimes, wondering if I made the right choice, wondering what Zoe's life might have been like if I'd been braver. For what it's worth, Nath said slowly, I think you're one of the bravest people I've ever met. Raising Zoe alone, building a life from nothing. That takes incredible strength. Or incredible stubbornness, I said with a bitter laugh. Maybe both, Nath allowed. But Julia, if you ever want to find him, if you ever want to tell him, I'd help you. I'd support you through that. The offer broke something in me. Here he was, offering to help me find himself, to help me tell him the truth he couldn't see was sitting right in front of him. Why? I asked, tears threatening. Why would you do that? Because Zoe deserves to know her father, Nath said simply. Every child deserves that if it's safe and possible. And because you deserve peace, you deserve to not carry this weight alone anymore. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The truth was right there, pressing against my teeth, demanding to be spoken. But before I could say anything, Nath's phone rang. He glanced at it and sighed. I'm sorry, I have to take this. It's my business partner. He stepped away, and I sat there shaking. This was it. This was my moment. When he came back, I would tell him everything. I would finally be honest. But when he returned, his expression was troubled. I have to go to New York, he said. There's a situation with one of our projects, possible corruption, families being displaced. I need to handle it personally. When? I asked. Tomorrow morning, he said. I'll be gone about a week. Maybe 2. I'm sorry, Julia. I know we had plans this weekend. It's fine, I said automatically. Work is important. Not as important as this. He gestured between us. But I have a responsibility to make this right. People's homes are at stake. I understand, I said. And I did. This was who he was now. Someone who took responsibility, who cared about more than just profit. Can I call you? He asked. While I'm gone, I'd like to hear your voice, and Zoe's. Of course, I managed. He pulled me into a hug then. A real hug, the kind where I could feel his heartbeat against my cheek. The kind that felt like home and heartbreak all mixed together. I'll miss you, he whispered into my hair. I'll miss you too, I admitted. And then he was gone. And I was alone with my secrets again. The week Nath was in New York was torture. He called every evening like clockwork, talking to Zoe first, hearing about her day, then talking to me, sharing about his work, asking about mine. The conversations were intimate in a way that terrified me. We were building something real, something that would shatter when the truth came out. Jasmine cornered me during a slow afternoon shift about 4 days into Nath's absence. You have to tell him, she said without preamble. I know. I'm serious, Julia. This has gone too far. He's falling for you. You're falling for him. Zoe is getting attached. This is going to blow up spectacularly if you don't come clean. I know, I repeated helplessly. So, why haven't you? Because I'm terrified, I admitted. Terrified of his reaction, terrified of losing him, terrified of hurting Zoe, terrified of everything. The truth is going to come out eventually, Jasmine said gently. Secrets this big always do. Better it comes from you than from circumstance. She was right. I knew she was right. That night, I pulled out my box of memories again. Looking at the photographs of young Nath and young Julia, so much hope in those faces, so much love, all of it destroyed by ambition and fear and terrible timing. I picked up my phone and typed out a message to Nath. When you get back, we need to talk. There's something important I need to tell you. I stared at it for a long time before deleting it unsent. Coward, I whispered to myself, but the fear was paralyzing. Because telling Nath the truth meant risking everything we were building. It meant watching his face when he realized I'd kept his daughter from him for 7 years. It meant potential anger, betrayal, loss. It also meant honesty, integrity, giving him the choice he deserved, giving Zoe the full truth about her father. I just needed to find the courage. Nath returned from New York on a Thursday evening. He texted that he wanted to see us, that he'd missed us terribly. We agreed to meet at the park. Our park, where everything had started. Zoe ran to him the moment she saw him, and he scooped her up in a huge hug. I missed you, Munchkin, he said. I missed you too, Zoe replied. Did you fix the problem in New York? I did, Nath said. We made sure families get to keep their homes. It was the right thing to do, even though it cost the company a lot of money. Money isn't as important as people, Zoe said seriously, and Nath laughed. You're absolutely right. When did you get so wise? Mommy teaches me, Zoe said loyally. Your mom is pretty smart, Nath agreed, looking at me with warmth that made my stomach flip. After Zoe ran off to play, Nath and I sat on a bench together. You look tired, I observed. Exhausted, he admitted. It was a tough week, a lot of hard conversations, a lot of difficult decisions, but you made the right ones. I hope so, he said. I'm trying to be better than I was, better than the person I apparently used to be before the accident. What do you mean? I asked carefully. I've been doing some digging, Nath said, talking to people who knew me before, trying to understand who I was in those years I can't fully remember. And what did you find? That I wasn't a very good person, he said quietly. I was ruthless in business, cared more about success than people, valued image over substance. Apparently, I even had a girlfriend I treated poorly, someone who meant something to me, but I was too focused on climbing the ladder to appreciate her. My breath caught. What happened to her? She left, Nath said. Just disappeared one day. Left a note saying we wanted different things. No one knew where she went. I guess I tried to find her, but I couldn't. He didn't remember. He knew about me abstractly, from other people's stories, but he didn't remember me. Didn't remember us. Do you wish you could remember her? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Every day, Nath said, because I wonder if losing her was the wake-up call I needed but ignored. I wonder if I would have become a better person sooner if I'd fought for her instead of letting her go. Tears burned behind my eyes. Maybe she had her reasons for leaving. I'm sure she did, Nath agreed. I just wish I knew what they were. I wish I could apologize for whoever I was back then. The moment was there, perfect, waiting for me to step into it, to say, I'm her. I'm the one you lost. I'm here. But Zoe came running back, full of news about a butterfly she'd seen, and the moment shattered. The next Saturday was Zoe's 8th birthday. I'd planned a small party at our apartment. A few of her school friends, some cake, simple decorations. Nothing elaborate because my budget didn't allow for elaborate. But when I opened our apartment door that morning to grab the newspaper, there was a delivery. A huge box with a note. For Zoe's birthday. I hope this is okay. I wanted to contribute to making her day special. Nath. Inside the box were decorations. Not expensive or over the top, but thoughtful. Ocean-themed everything because of Zoe's love of marine biology. Plates, napkins, streamers. Even a beautiful banner that said, Happy Birthday, Zoe, with little octopuses on it. There was also a separate, smaller box addressed to me. Inside was a bracelet, simple and elegant. Silver with a small charm. A compass, the note said. for always finding your way, even when the path is difficult. Nath. I sat on my kitchen floor and cried. Nath showed up an hour before the party was scheduled to start, carrying groceries. "I'm here to help," he announced. "Put me to work." "You don't have to," I started. "I want to," he insisted. "Besides, I make excellent cupcakes. It's a hidden talent." And he did. He baked and decorated cupcakes with Zoe, while I set up the decorations he'd sent. He was patient with her instructions, laughing when frosting ended up on his nose. They worked together like they'd been doing it for years, like a father and daughter. The party was chaos in the best way. 8-year-olds hopped up on sugar, running around our small apartment, playing games, laughing hysterically. Nath was right in the middle of it, organizing a treasure hunt, helping with crafts, treating every child like they mattered. At one point, Zoe's friend Emma asked, "Is that your dad?" Zoe hesitated, looking at Nath with such longing it broke my heart. "No," she said quietly, "but I wish he was." If Emma heard, she didn't comment. But I heard, and from the way Nath's expression shifted, he'd heard too. After the other kids left and Zoe was sorting through her presents, Nath helped me clean up. We worked in comfortable silence until the apartment was back to normal. "Thank you," I said, "for everything. The decorations, the help, just being here. It meant the world to Zoe. It meant the world to me too," Nath replied. "Being included in something this important, this real." He stepped closer, and suddenly the air between us felt charged. "Julia," he said softly, "I know we've been taking things slow. I know you needed time, but I have to tell you, I'm falling in love with you, with both of you. This thing between us, it's not casual for me. It's everything." My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. "Nath," I whispered. "You don't have to say anything," he continued. "I just needed you to know, needed you to understand that I'm all in. Whatever this is, wherever it goes, I'm completely committed." I should tell him, right now, this second, before this goes any further, but instead, I kissed him. It was the first kiss in 8 years, the first real kiss of this new version of us. And it felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff all at the same time. He kissed me back with a gentleness that made me want to cry, his hands cupping my face like I was something precious, something to be cherished. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "I'm falling in love with you too," I admitted, "even though it's complicated and messy and probably a terrible idea." "Why is it a terrible idea?" Nath asked. "Because there are things you don't know about me," I said. "Things that might change everything." "Then tell me," he said simply. "Whatever it is, we can figure it out together." This was it, the moment I'd been avoiding for weeks, the moment where I could come clean or keep lying. I opened my mouth, but before words could come out, we heard a crash from Zoe's room, followed by crying. We both rushed in to find her on the floor, having fallen off her bed while trying to hang a poster. She wasn't badly hurt, just scared and a little bruised, but it effectively ended the moment. By the time we'd comforted Zoe and gotten her settled, the vulnerability had passed. The moment was gone. Nath left shortly after, but not before kissing me softly at the door. "We'll talk more soon," he promised. "About us, about the future." I nodded, unable to speak around the lump in my throat. That night, after Zoe was asleep, my phone rang. It wasn't Nath. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello," I answered cautiously. "Julia Smith." The voice on the other end was female, professional, unfamiliar. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Rebecca Grant. I'm a journalist working on a piece about Nathaniel Grayson and his charitable work. I understand you've been seeing him socially." My blood ran cold. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Miss Smith, I've seen the photos. You, Mr. Grayson, and a young girl who I presume is your daughter. Multiple outings over the past several weeks. It's a feel-good story. The billionaire dating a single mother. Very heartwarming." "What do you want?" I asked, my voice sharp. "Just to verify some facts," Rebecca said smoothly. "How long have you known Mr. Grayson? Is this a serious relationship? And I'm curious about your daughter. She bears a striking resemblance to Mr. Grayson. Same eyes, same smile. Quite remarkable, really. My hands were shaking. I have no comment. Please, don't contact me again. Miss Smith, the truth always comes out. It's better if it comes from you. If there's a story here, something more than just a new relationship, my readers would be very interested. Especially if... I hung up. For several minutes, I just sat there, phone in my trembling hands, panic rising in my throat. A journalist, asking questions, noticing the resemblance between Zoe and Nath. This was it, my worst nightmare. The truth was going to come out, but not on my terms. Not in a controlled private conversation, in a tabloid article, in headlines and speculation and public scrutiny. I had to tell Nath, now, before this journalist did it for me. I called Jasmine. She answered on the second ring. Julia, what's wrong? You sound terrible. I told her everything. The call, the journalist, the implied threat. Oh God, Jasmine breathed. Julia, you have to tell Nath tonight, right now, before this gets out of your control. I know, I said. I know. Will you come watch Zoe? I need to go see him. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I threw on real clothes, my mind racing. How do you start this conversation? How do you tell someone their entire understanding of reality is wrong? Jasmine arrived, and I gave her quick instructions, then drove to the address Nath had given me once. His penthouse in the nicest part of the city. I'd never been there. We'd always met at my place or in public, keeping his world and my world separate. The doorman was skeptical until he called up, and Nath apparently told him to let me in. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt like ascending to my own execution. Nath opened the door looking concerned. Julia, what's wrong? Is Zoe okay? She's fine, I managed. Can I come in? We need to talk. His apartment was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern furniture that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Art on the walls that looked original and expensive. It was a world away from my tiny apartment with the cracked ceiling and second-hand furniture. What happened? Nath asked, guiding me to sit on his pristine white couch. You're shaking. A journalist called me, I said, asking questions about us, about Zoe. A journalist. Nath frowned. What kind of questions? About our relationship. About how long we've known each other. I took a breath. About how much Zoe looks like you. Understanding dawned on his face. You're worried about media attention. Julia, I'm so sorry. I should have warned you this might happen. But I can handle it. I'll have my PR team shut it down. You and Zoe won't be dragged into any tabloid nonsense. That's not, I started, then stopped. Nath, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you weeks ago. Okay, he said, sitting beside me, taking my hand. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it. 8 years ago, I began, my voice shaking. I was living in Connecticut, working at a small cafe, going to community college. Nath was listening intently, but not understanding yet. I met someone, I continued. A man who came into the cafe every morning. We started talking, became friends. Then more than friends. Julia, Nath said gently. You don't have to tell me about your ex. I don't need to know. Yes, I said firmly. You do. Because that man, that relationship, it's not ancient history. It's connected to everything happening right now. I don't understand. I took a breath and pulled out my phone. I'd loaded the photographs earlier, just in case. I pulled up one of me and young Nath, both of us laughing, his arm around me, clearly in love. I handed him the phone. He stared at the screen, his expression confused, then shocked, then completely shattered. That's me, he whispered. And you, we... His voice broke. We knew each other. We were together for a year, I said, tears streaming down my face. We were in love. We had plans. You gave me a promise ring. You told me I was your forever. I don't remember, Nath said, and he sounded devastated. God, Julia, I don't remember any of this. How is that possible? The accident, I said. You lost memories from before. I'm in those missing years. Our whole relationship. It's in the gap you can't access. He scrolled through the photos, his hands shaking. There were dozens. Proof of a love he couldn't recall. A whole year of his life just gone. What happened? He asked hoarsely. Why did you leave? Why didn't you tell me we'd met before when I came to your apartment? Because I overheard something, I said. Right before I left. I came to your office one night to surprise you, and I heard you talking to your business partner. About me. What did I say? Nath asked, though he looked like he dreaded the answer. That I was a liability, I whispered. That I didn't fit into the successful life you were building. That you needed to end things with me, but were looking for the right time. Nath's face went white. I said that. About you. I heard it clearly, I confirmed. So I left. Disappeared before you could dump me. I moved here, started over. Julia, Nath breathed. I'm so sorry. I don't remember being that person, but I'm so incredibly sorry. There's more, I said, my heart pounding. When I left, I didn't just leave you. I left because I couldn't say it. Couldn't get the words out. Because why? Nath pressed. Because I'd just found out I was pregnant. The silence that followed was deafening. Nath just stared at me, processing, his brilliant mind putting the pieces together. Zoe, he whispered. Zoe is your daughter, I said. I found out the same day I overheard that conversation. I was coming to tell you. And instead, I heard you say I didn't fit into your life. So I ran. I have a daughter, Nath said, like he was testing the words. Zoe is my daughter. Yes. For 7 years, you kept this from me. His voice was rising. 7 years of her life. First steps, first words, first days of school. Everything. You took all of that from me. I know, I said, crying harder. I know it was wrong. I was young and scared and hurt. I thought I was protecting her from a father who didn't want us. You didn't give me the choice, Nath said, standing up, pacing. You decided for me. You let me believe you were just someone I'd met recently. You let me get to know my own daughter without telling me she was mine. I'm sorry, I sobbed. Nath, I'm so sorry. Do you have any idea? He started, then stopped, running his hands through his hair. I've been falling in love with you both, thinking about a future together, and the whole time you were lying to me, keeping this massive secret. I was going to tell you, I said desperately. Tonight, I was coming here to tell you everything before that journalist did it for me. But you didn't tell me weeks ago when we first met, Nath countered. You didn't tell me when I was sitting in your apartment eating dinner. You didn't tell me when I told you I was falling in love with you. How many opportunities did you have, Julia? I was scared, I whispered. Of what? He demanded. Of me. Do I seem like the kind of person who would hurt you or Zoe? Have I given you any indication that I'm the ruthless bastard you overheard 8 years ago? No, I admitted. You've been wonderful. That's what made it so hard. You're not the man I left anymore. But I didn't know how to explain everything without you hating me. Well, congratulations, Nath said bitterly. I don't hate you, but I don't know if I can trust you either. The words landed like physical blows. I need you to leave, Nath said, his back to me. I need time to process this, to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with this information. Nath, please. Please go, Julia, he said, and the pain in his voice matched my own. I left, tears blurring my vision so badly I could barely find my way to the elevator. The ride down felt like falling, and when I got to my car, I sat in the parking garage and completely fell apart. I'd done it. I'd told him the truth, and in doing so, I'd destroyed everything we were building. The next few days were the worst of my life. Nath didn't call, didn't text, complete radio silence, and Zoe, sweet innocent Zoe, kept asking when she'd see him again. I don't know, baby, I told her, trying to keep my voice steady. He's busy with work, but he always makes time for us, Zoe said, her face confused and hurt. Did I do something wrong? No, sweetheart. I pulled her into a hug. You didn't do anything wrong. This is all my fault. I told Jasmine everything. She listened without judgment as I sobbed through the whole story. He has every right to be angry, she said gently. But Julia, he also loves you, both of you. That doesn't just disappear. Maybe it should, I said bitterly. Maybe I don't deserve his love after what I did. Everyone makes mistakes, Jasmine said. The question is, what happens next? Does he walk away, or does he find a way to forgive? On the fourth day, my phone rang. Nath's name on the screen made my heart stop. Hello? I answered, my voice barely audible. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Nath said. No greeting, just straight to the point. About us, about Zoe, about everything you told me. Okay, I whispered. I talked to my therapist, Nath continued. Yes, I have a therapist. Had one since the accident. She helped me work through some things, understand some things. I waited, terrified of what came next. I'm angry, Julia, Nath said bluntly. I'm hurt. I'm grieving 7 years I'll never get back with my daughter. That's real, and I'm not going to pretend it's not. I understand. But, he continued, I also understand fear. I understand making choices in pain that don't make sense later. And I understand that the person I was 8 years ago, the one you overheard, probably did deserve to lose you. Nath, I started. Let me finish, he said. I've spent the last 4 days going through old journals. I found entries from back then, from right after you left. You did. I was devastated, Julia, Nath said quietly. I wrote about trying to find you, about how losing you made me realize what mattered, about how I'd chosen wrong, chosen success over love, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't know, I whispered. How could you? He replied. You were gone. And yes, I understand why you ran. I understand why you didn't tell me about Zoe. I hate it. It makes me furious. But I understand it. Where does that leave us? I asked. I don't know, Nath admitted. I do know that I want to be part of Zoe's life. She's my daughter, and I've already missed too much. I want to be her father, if you'll let me. Of course, I said immediately. Nath, she needs you. She deserves to know you're her dad. Then we need to tell her, he said. Together, she deserves the truth. When? This weekend, Nath said. We'll sit down together and explain everything, in a way she can understand. Okay, I managed. As for us, Nath paused. The you and me part, I don't know, Julia. I need time. I need to rebuild trust. What we had these past few weeks, it was built on a lie of omission, but still a lie. I know, I said, my heart breaking all over again. I understand, but I don't want to lose you, Nath said softly. Despite everything, despite the anger and hurt, I still love you. I just don't know what to do with that love right now. Take all the time you need, I told him. I'll wait, as long as it takes. We agreed to meet Saturday afternoon, neutral territory, the park where it had all begun. I spent the days before trying to figure out how to explain everything to Zoe. How do you tell an 8-year-old that her whole understanding of her family is about to change? Saturday arrived too quickly, and not quickly enough. Nath was already at the park when Zoe and I arrived. He looked tired, worn down, but he smiled when he saw Zoe. Hey, Munchkin, he said. Hi, Nay. Zoe ran to him for a hug, and I saw his face when he held her. The love and grief and longing all mixed together. We walked to the same bench where we'd sat before, all three of us this time. Zoe, I started gently. Nath and I need to talk to you about something important, something that's going to sound confusing at first, but we want you to know the truth. Okay, Zoe said, looking between us nervously. You know how you sometimes ask about your dad, I continued, about why he's not around. Zoe nodded. Well, honey, the reason is complicated, but I need you to know that your dad loves you very much. He's always loved you, even when he didn't know you existed. I don't understand, Zoe said. Nath knelt down in front of her, eye level. Zoe, he said gently, I'm your dad. Your mom and I knew each other a long time ago, before you were born. We were together, but then We lost touch. I didn't know about you, but now I do. And I want you to know that I'm so happy you exist. You're the most amazing kid, and I'm so proud to be your father. Zoe's eyes went wide. You're my dad. I am, Nath confirmed. Why didn't you tell me before? Zoe asked, looking at me. This was the hard part. Because I made a mistake, sweetheart, I said honestly. I was scared and confused, and I made a choice that I shouldn't have made. I kept you and your dad apart, and that wasn't fair to either of you. But you're here now, Zoe said to Nath. Right. You're not leaving. I'm not leaving, Nath promised. I want to be part of your life, every single day if you'll let me. I want to be your dad in every way that matters. Can I call you Dad? Zoe asked, her voice small. I would love that more than anything in the world, Nath said, his voice breaking. And then Zoe launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck. Dad, she said, testing the word. My dad. Nath held her like she was the most precious thing in the world, tears streaming down his face. I watched them and felt something shift. Relief, grief, hope, all tangled together in my chest after Zoe ran off to play, processing in the way kids do through movement and activity. Nath and I sat together. Thank you, I said quietly, for handling that so perfectly. She's amazing, Nath said, watching Zoe on the playground. Absolutely amazing. She gets that from you, I said. No, Nath disagreed. She gets that from both of us. From you raising her with love and strength. From my genetics maybe, but from your nurture. We sat in silence for a while. What happens now? I finally asked. Now, Nath said slowly. Now we figure out custody arrangements, how to TO parent, how to give Zoe stability while we work through our own stuff. And us, I pressed. The adult, us. Nath turned to look at me. I meant what I said, Julia. I still love you, but I need time. Time to trust again. Time to grieve what we lost. Time to figure out who we are as parents before we figure out if we can be partners. I can wait, I said. I'm not asking you to wait, Nath said gently. I'm asking you to live, to heal, to work on yourself the way I'm working on myself. And maybe, if we both do that work, we'll find our way back to each other. Or maybe we won't, I said, voice small. Or maybe we won't, Nath agreed. But either way, we'll both be better people, better parents for Zoe. It hurt. God, it hurt. But it was fair. It was honest. It was what we both needed. The weeks that followed were a study in adjustment. Nath got a lawyer. I got a lawyer. We worked out custody formally. Nath got Zoe 2 evenings a week and every other weekend. He was present, engaged, everything a father should be. Watching them together was beautiful and painful. Beautiful because Zoe was thriving. She lit up around her dad, talked non-stop about their adventures together. He took her to the aquarium, to science museums, signed her up for a junior marine biology camp. Painful because I saw what could have been 7 years of this bond. 7 years of shared parenting. 7 years of being a family. And painful because Nathan and I were friendly, but distant, polite. We coordinated schedules, discussed Zoe's needs, but the warmth, the connection, the love that had been growing between us was gone, frozen in the aftermath of betrayal and hurt. Jasmine kept telling me to be patient, to give it time. But as weeks turned into months, I started to accept that maybe time wasn't enough. Maybe some hurts were too deep to heal. Then one evening, about 3 months after the truth had come out, Nath showed up at my door unexpectedly. It wasn't his custody day. Zoe was already in bed. Can we talk? He asked. Of course, I said, heart pounding. Is everything okay? Is Zoe? Zoe's fine, Nath assured me quickly. This is about us. Can I come in? I stepped aside, and he entered the apartment that had become as familiar to him as his own place. I've been doing a lot of therapy, Nath started. A lot of work, processing the accident, the memory loss, the past I can't remember. Okay, I said carefully. And I've been processing what happened with you, Nath continued. The betrayal, the anger, All of it. I braced myself for the final goodbye, for him to say he'd tried, but couldn't get past it. But what he said was, "I've been thinking about the kind of person I was 8 years ago, the one who said those things about you, who was more concerned with image than with love. Nath, you don't have to. Let me finish," he said gently. "That person, he deserved to lose you. He made his choices, and he paid the price. But Julia, that's not who I am now. The accident, losing those memories, it gave me a chance to become someone better. I know you are," I said. "And you," Nath continued. "You were young and scared and hurt. You made a choice in pain that had lasting consequences. But you're not that scared girl anymore either. You're a woman who's raised an incredible daughter, who's built a life from nothing, who's strong and brave and doing her best. We've both changed," I said softly. "Exactly," Nath agreed. "So the question isn't whether we can forgive who we were. The question is whether who we are now can build something together." My breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I've spent 3 months trying to stop loving you," Nath said. "And I can't. I don't want to. You're it for me, Julia. You always have been, even when I couldn't remember why. I love you too," I whispered. "I never stopped. I know we can't go back," Nath said. "We can't recapture what we had 8 years ago, or even what we had before the truth came out. But maybe we can build something new, something honest, something real. I would like that." I managed through tears. "It won't be easy," Nath warned. "We have baggage. We have hurts that will take time to heal. We'll need boundaries, therapy probably, a lot of communication." "I can do that," I said. "I want to do that." Nath stepped closer, cupping my face in his hands. "I'm all in, Julia. Completely. With you, with Zoe, with building a life together. If you'll have me." "Yes," I breathed. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He kissed me then, soft and sweet, and full of promise. Different from our first kiss, or even our recent kiss. This one tasted like forgiveness, like new beginnings, like hope. When we broke apart, we were both crying. "We have to do this right," Nath said. "Take it slow. Build trust back piece by piece." "Agreed," I said. "And we should probably tell Zoe before she figures it out herself," Nath added with a small laugh. "She's already been asking me why I'm not your boyfriend." "Has she now?" "She has very strong opinions about us being together," Nath confirmed. "Apparently we're meant to be." "Smart kid. She gets that from both of us," Nath said. And so we began again. Slowly, carefully, dating properly this time, building a foundation on honesty instead of secrets. Nath took me to dinner. Real dates where we talked about our pasts, our fears, our hopes. He met with my therapist and his so we could work through our trauma as individuals and as a couple. We were honest with Zoe about everything, explained that Mommy and Daddy were trying to be together but needed to do it slowly. She was patient in the way only children can be, just happy that her family was coming together. 6 months after the truth came out, Nath proposed. Not with fanfare or flash. Just the 3 of us in the park where everything had started. He got down on one knee with Zoe standing beside him. "Julia Smith," he said, "8 years ago, I let you go. It was the biggest mistake of my life, even if I can't remember making it. But you came back into my life when I needed you most. You gave me the greatest gift in Zoe, and you've given me a second chance I don't deserve. You deserve it," I whispered. "Marry me," Nath continued, "not because of our past or because we share a daughter, but because I love who you are now, because I want to build a future with you, because I can't imagine my life without both of you in it." He pulled out a ring. "Simple, but beautiful. And yes, I checked with you about the style through Jasmine, so I know you like it," he added with a smile. "Sneaky," I said through tears. Zoe jumped in. "Please say yes, Mommy. Please." I looked at my daughter's hopeful face, at Nath's loving eyes, at the life we could build together. "Yes," I said. "Yes to all of it." Zoe cheered. Nath slipped the ring on my finger and pulled me into a kiss. When we broke apart, Zoe was right there, and we pulled her into a group hug. A family. Finally. Fully. Honestly. The wedding was 6 months later. Small and intimate. Just close friends and family. Jasmine was my maid of honor, crying through the entire ceremony. Zoe was the flower girl, wearing a dress she'd helped pick out, glowing with joy. My father came. We'd been rebuilding our relationship slowly, carefully. He walked me down the aisle with tears in his eyes. "Your mother would be so proud," he whispered. I stood at the altar across from Nath, both of us crying, both of us smiling, both of us so grateful for the journey that had brought us here. The vows we wrote ourselves were honest, about pain and healing, about mistakes and forgiveness, about love that endures even through the darkest times. "I promise to be honest with you," I said. "Even when it's hard, even when the truth is painful. No more secrets. I promise to trust you," Nath said, "to believe in us, to fight for this family we're building together." We sealed it with a kiss, and the small gathering erupted in applause. At the reception, Nath pulled Zoe aside for a private moment. I watched as he gave her a small box. Inside was a necklace with a pendant that said "Daddy's Girl." "This is a promise," he told her, "that I'll always be here, always be your dad, no matter what." Zoe threw her arms around him. "Best day ever," she declared. And it was. It really was. A year after the wedding, we welcomed our second daughter, Clara. Zoe was thrilled to be a big sister, taking her role seriously, helping with everything. Nath was an incredible father, present for every moment, every late-night feeding, every diaper change, making up for the years he'd missed with Zoe by being hyper-involved with both girls. Our life wasn't perfect. We still had hard conversations, moments where old hurts resurfaced, times when trust was tested, but we worked through it, together, with honesty and love and a commitment to being better. I went back to school, finished my degree with Nath's support, started working at a nonprofit that helped single mothers, using my own story to guide and encourage others. Nath stepped back from the CEO role, moving to chairman of the board so he could spend more time with us. He started a foundation in my mother's name, helping fund programs for struggling families. We moved into a house, not a mansion, something that felt like us, big enough for our growing family, modest enough to stay grounded. And every week, we went back to that park, the place where Zoe had brought a stranger home, where a little girl had unknowingly reunited her parents, where everything had changed. One evening, sitting on our usual bench while the girls played, Nath took my hand. "Do you ever think about how differently this could have gone?" he asked. "All the time," I admitted. "So many ways it could have fallen apart completely." "But it didn't," Nath said. "We found our way back to each other. Twice," I pointed out. "We found each other twice. Best thing that ever happened to me," Nath said. "Both times. Even with all the pain," I asked. "Especially with all the pain," Nath replied. "Because it made us who we are. Better, stronger, more grateful." I leaned my head on his shoulder, watching our daughters play. Zoe was teaching Clara how to find the best skipping rocks, being patient and encouraging, being exactly the kind of big sister we'd hoped she'd be. "I love our life," I said softly. "So do I," Nath agreed. "Every messy, complicated, beautiful moment of it." And that's the truth about second chances. They're rarely clean, rarely simple. They come with baggage and hurt and the weight of everything that came before. But they're also filled with grace, with the possibility of becoming better than you were, with the hope that love can heal even the deepest wounds. Nath and I didn't get the fairy tale the first time around. We got pain and betrayal and years of separation. But the second time, we built something real, something honest, something worth every moment of struggle it took to get here. Our story isn't about perfection. It's about perseverance. It's about choosing to forgive when it would be easier to walk away. It's about building trust brick by brick when it's been shattered. It's about loving someone enough to do the hard work of healing. And in the end, sitting in that park with my husband and our daughters, I realized that this imperfect, hard-won life was more beautiful than any fairy tale could ever be, because it was real, and it was ours. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the power of second chances and the courage it takes to forgive and rebuild, I want you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late for love, for truth, for healing. Comment below and tell me what resonated with you most. Was it Julia's struggle with secrets, Nath's journey of forgiveness, the beautiful redemption of a family coming together? Or just say I'm with you, Dr. Phillips, and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Your stories, your comments, they inspire me to keep bringing you these narratives of hope and transformation. Remember, life doesn't give us perfect love stories, but it gives us real ones, messy ones, stories where people make mistakes and hurt each other and have to choose daily to love anyway. And sometimes those imperfect stories become the most beautiful ones of all. The lessons from Julia and Nath's journey are clear. First, the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a lie. Secrets may protect us temporarily, but they build walls that keep out the very love we're seeking. Second, people can change. Circumstances, trauma, time, they all shape us. The person someone was isn't always who they are now. Growth is possible. Transformation is real. Third, forgiveness is a choice we make daily. Not a one-time event, but a practice. A commitment to releasing hurt and choosing love instead. Fourth, second chances are precious gifts. What we do with them, how we honor them, that defines us. Julia and Nath could have let their past destroy their future. Instead, they used it to build something stronger. And finally, family isn't just biology. It's showing up. It's being present. It's choosing each other day after day, even when it's hard. Zoe got her father, not because of perfect circumstances, but because two imperfect people chose to be brave, chose to be honest, chose to fight for love, even when it seemed impossible. Julia got her second chance at the love she'd lost. Not the same love, but something deeper, something forged in fire and refined by pain. And Nath got his family, the one he'd been searching for without even knowing it, the home he'd lost to memory, found again in the laughter of daughters and the love of a woman who saw him, really saw him, and loved him anyway. Their story reminds us that sometimes the stranger at your door is exactly who you've been waiting for all along. Sometimes the person you lost comes back. Sometimes broken things can be mended into something even more beautiful than they were before. You just have to be brave enough to tell the truth, strong enough to forgive, hopeful enough to believe that love can heal what fear has broken. This is Dr. Phillips, reminding you that every ending can be a new beginning. Every broken heart can love again. Every mistake can be redeemed by grace. Until next time, keep believing in love. Keep choosing forgiveness. Keep being brave enough to let people in, even when you're scared. Because the best stories, the ones worth telling, are the ones where we fall down and get back up, where we break and heal, where we lose and find and love and lose and love again. And in the end, love always wins, always.